you can totally share screen and do your presentation.
Great. I also just dropped the file in the group chat so everyone can have access to it afterwards. And I see you've given me
Great,
permission.
and I'll try to capture that so that we can send it out when we send out climate and preparedness, which you're kicking off tonight. This is awesome, amazing. So thank you so much.
Awesome. Can everyone see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, so you did a great job with your intro, so I'll just skip that. Full disclosure, I made a very wordy presentation. That's so that we can have more of a fluid conversation now and no one has to take notes. And afterwards you can go through it and won't have to remember everything. So I want to talk about the intersection of climate emergencies and disaster preparedness and how the solution to those is hyperlocal resilience models. I think as we've all been following along, we all know the last week has been pretty devastating in terms of natural disasters and political news, from Medicaid coverage cuts to social services and attacks on climate protections, all of these things. They're all leading to a rising inequity in disaster recovery, which, as we also know, will disproportionately harm low income Black, Brown, Indigenous, disabled, and immigrant communities. And just like the storms we just experienced for the last week, these are no longer anomalies. It's no longer a once in a lifetime, once in 1,000 years kind of situation. This is absolutely the new normal. It's systemic, it's accelerating, and it's interconnected. So we can expect to see a lot more of this in the coming months. I want to make a case for emergency preparedness being the new normal. And prepper culture has been dominated by right-wing there's been a very clear image of what prepper means thus far. And we need a new one that normalizes community care and talks about collective preparedness. Every piece of infrastructure, every home, every system that we currently have was built for a world that no longer exists. So we need to create new systems. And emergency preparedness is still something that we frame as something that we do as an abstract threat. Maybe the earthquake will come, maybe this flooding will happen, maybe a fire. But the reality is that we're already living in a moment of real compounding emergencies. Not being able to afford rent or healthcare is an emergency. Being isolated, elderly, or disabled without company is an emergency. If climate disasters are worsening and we have no neighborhood level coordination, it's an emergency. And if your nervous system shuts down in high pressure situations, that's also an emergency. These crises aren't happening in isolation, they're compounding. Climate, capitalism, mental health, disconnection, they're all getting faster and accelerating. Our systems are not built for the current reality, which brings us to what we need to create. But in order to understand what resilience really is, we need to break it down into the way that resilience interacts with preparedness. So there's emotional resilience. Are we able to regulate ourselves and support others in high stress situations? There's financial resilience. Can we actually afford to evacuate, rebuild, and recover? There's climate resilience. Are our homes ready? Are our streets ready? Are our communities ready for heat, floods, wildfire, earthquakes? There's emergency resilience. Do we have a plan in place? Do we know what to do in an emergency? Do we have basic life-saving skills and supplies? And then there's collective resilience. Are we organized at the neighborhood level? Do we know who on our street might need support in the event of a disaster? And all together, we get an integrated system, which brings me to why I'm excited to talk about climate and activists. I want to pause and ask a question. Who here has a go bag? Either unmute or raise your hand, or
I do.
you do? Amazing. Who else? John?
I do.
Oh yeah. Who else?
We've got one, but I haven't checked it lately, so it's probably a good thing to go back and look at what's in there.
Cool. That's already a higher percentage than I normally get, though it's a small kind of activist-oriented group, so maybe that's not surprising. And then how many of you are CERT members or have an emergency plan or talk to your neighbors about these kind of things? Has there been any kind of coordination in your
We did talk about it a long time ago. My neighborhood, we had this neighborhood watch, and so we integrated that in.
Amazing. How was that as an experience for you?
Um, I think it was really good when we all get together. We have like block parties once a year, so we get to know each other and we know who may need help, in terms of the elderly with limited mobility.
Mhm. Amazing. Yeah, great. We should talk. Um, yeah, so one of the issues that I see most is fragmentation and climate activists working in isolation, emergency managers working in isolation, mutual aid networks, etc. I'm actually currently getting my emergency management specialist certification from Cal OES. And so I'm spending a lot of time around government people and then kind of translating that information to the community. And it's completely different worlds and we're not talking very much. So everyone's doing a lot of amazing work, but in silos. So I want to talk about the integration. Climate collapse is an emergency, economic inequality is an emergency, and disconnection and loneliness are emergencies. And these three things specifically is what's going to make disaster preparedness really difficult because climate change is making them more frequent and more intense. The economic inequality that's growing is making it impossible for people to recover. And the disconnection is leading to easily preventable deaths. So the solution is hyperlocal resilience models. This is a community-led structure. It's location-based and neighbor-led with committees that work on hyperlocal solutions for hyperlocal problems. In emergency management, they say every disaster is local, and that means that every street, I live in Oakland, and different neighborhoods in Oakland have different disaster risks. Even though we are all susceptible to earthquakes, some of us live on liquefaction zones, some of us live on bedrock, some of us live on a landslide or on a hill, which could lead to landslides. There's different variables. So we need very specific hyperlocal solutions. We need monthly committee meetings. We need detailed organization, a registry and a map of many neighborhoods, around 150 to 300 people at most, and then neighborhood-specific emergency operations plans with defined roles. We also need shared resources and a treasury, shared skills and certain PEP trainings and shared resources. And then we need collective initiatives like disaster mitigation, sustainability, and location-based resilience hubs. And I believe that these resilience models address our most pressing need. They create connection in a time of deep fragmentation and a loneliness pandemic. They enable collective preparedness for disasters, which is really the only way to get prepared. And they cultivate climate and financial sustainability through initiatives and shared resources. So in my neighborhood, we started this about 7 months ago. I mean, we had a little bit something going for a few months before, but we really in earnest formed our committee 7 months ago. We now have 12 people. We meet every month. We have a 10-foot architectural Sanborn map that has every house on the street. We have 80% of it covered in terms of name, contact, emergency contact, pets, children, who has disabilities, who's a senior living alone. We do occasionally encounter people who don't want to have anything to do with us. It hasn't happened often, but it's mostly a particular type of grumpy senior. And when they want nothing to do with us, we still take note on our registry, senior over 85 living alone. And that's really all we need to know to make sure that no one's left behind in case of an emergency. So we have a map, we have a registry, we've handed out over 100 folders to every household on our street with tailored emergency plan information to our street, a laminated one sheet for the fridge, a system for our search and rescue. We're hosting community initiatives from National Night Out to fireproofing fiesta, which is happening August 16th, where we're going to collectively fireproof our street. And we have volunteers that will help the seniors who can't climb ladders or use the tools. We'll be sharing tools. We're going to get an arborist to work on the street and kind of get a slightly reduced price for everybody for group pricing. So that's what we've been doing so far. And you can see some snapshots. The folders are the packs that we sent out. Here's some images from our meetings. We also have this shared emergency supplies shed. We have a treasury of about $2,500. And in the future, we're also envisioning having shared gardens, doing meal sharing, food prep parties where we get into groups of 5 and each one of us cooks one meal for the week, and then we share it out so that we don't have to go to restaurants and we don't get bored of our own cooking. Opening up a gym in someone's garage that the whole neighborhood can go to. Time banks where we exchange services, and raising money for a resilience hub. I think these are systems that are very much scalable. I'm hoping that what we're doing on our street can become a pilot program that inspires other people to join. Our street is right off Piedmont Ave, so we called it the Piedmont Ave Resilience Committee, hoping that other block leaders will join us and we can share resources and do this together. Right now, we can really only take care of the one street because that's the capacity we have for, but we're hoping that we will inspire and other people want to do what we're doing. And yeah, I think most of you probably heard David Suzuki saying that it's too late for the climate at this point and that we need to hunker down. I don't know if I want to believe in that just yet, but I do think that there's 2 possible futures. If we fail to act, we can expect these mega earthquakes and fires to displace tens of thousands of people. In the Bay, it's predicted to be about 500,000 people who will be displaced after the Hayward earthquake. We'll have wealthy enclaves that are protected while frontline areas are burning or flooding. Well, our mutual aid networks will collapse under chronic neglect, and insurance utilities and housing systems break down. I think we can all imagine the worst case scenario really well. But I also want to think about the best case scenario. And we are in California, we are in the Bay, where there's a history and a precedent for activism and movements. There's money, we're well resourced. We just need to work together and tap into it. And I think if we invest in resilience now, we can make sure that every neighborhood has its own resilience hub, that the warnings actually reach people. Only 17% of Oakland residents are actually signed up for alerts, which is a huge problem. We need more education around this. We need more shelters. We need to build around climate resiliency. And we need more people trained in trauma-informed community organization, and we need recovery funds. So I think that if we unite, we can create a much needed paradigm shift. I'm going to choose not to believe David Suzuki just yet. I think that there is still time to do something. I want to leave you with this goofy photo of us all doing CERT together, which was really fun and really bonding. And yeah, I'd love to hear some questions. I think we have time for also specific preparedness conversations, if that's interesting. And yeah, I'll pause for a moment. Yeah, Lynette. Oh, you're still muted.
Hi, I wanted to ask, because like I live in a senior building and there's, which I think is like really terrible because there's people on the second floor that are in wheelchairs. And so like if something happens, even if there's a blackout, the elevators don't work. Now, I'm not an engineer, but I thought that if we had like a metal, because a lot of them are heavy, they're, large weight wise. And so wood might not work as well. And we need like a metal slide thing so that we could push them down in their wheelchairs to the first floor. Otherwise, we would have to drag them in blankets down the stairs. And I just think it's devastating. that, because I figured like if we had something attached to the wall, we could unlatch it and it goes on the floor, on the stairs, and that would make a thing that
Yeah.
they could go down the stairs. But it has to be a big piece of metal. And I swear, I feel like Chicken Little. How can I convince these people that this has to be done? Because
Yeah,
they
that's a
think
great
that
question.
the fire department, they think the fire department will do it. Well, I live in Lake County, Clear Lake. So, I mean, our fire department is like, 4 people. I don't even know how many people are here, but it's not a huge. If it was a disaster, they would be very busy and they wouldn't be able to come to the senior building and help the people.
Are you in a publicly or privately owned senior care facility?
It's so many percentage public, so many percentage private.
Got it. If it's public, there's a fair amount of legislation around it, and they're required by law to have an emergency operations plan with not only your fire department, but your local emergency services. If you live in a tiny county, then your tiny county will be partnering up with other tiny counties in the area. What you could do is say that you're taking emergency preparation classes or something like that, and you're thinking about getting emergency prepared, and you were wondering what the emergency operations plan for the facility was, and if you could get a copy. They're also required by law to give you a copy if you ask for it, especially if they're publicly owned. And if you then feel like you're not getting an answer to the emergency thing, then you could bring up potential concerns. Does that make sense?
Oh yeah, thank you so much. Because I've lived here for like 17 years, and I swear, I don't know if it was because of this or another. Somebody made me aware, and I was like, oh my God, what are we gonna do? And I
Yeah,
talked
that's a
to
super
that.
valid question. And senior care facilities need plans, and they often have quite robust plans.
They don't
Also,
have a plan here. That I can tell you. I gave them a plan years ago, and they looked at me like I was Chicken Little,
hmm,
like the sky is falling. They didn't get it.
well, if you want to give Cheryl the information of the facility, I could inquire and offer them help with the planning if necessary.
Okay, can I put my information in the chat to you?
Sure. Yeah, go ahead.
All right, will do. Thank you so much.
Of course.
Wow, I feel kind of relieved, even though it isn't solved yet, but at least I know that there's law. When
There's
there's law, you feel a lot more comfortable.
there's law, there's also getting sued, and senior care facilities do not want to get sued by the families of people living in. So most of them actually have pretty good emergency operation plans. And if they don't, you can make it really clear to them that they need to have one, because legally they will get into a lot of trouble. Cheryl, I see your hand.
Yeah, I had a couple questions. Thank you for that presentation. That was amazing. And I'm so happy that we have it in chat for everyone too. And then also, like, I was curious as to like what software you use for the mapping. And then I'll just give you all my questions now. And then I was wondering how you pay for all these things, because it sounds like you're getting everybody really prepared, and there's some things that are jointly used, like that cabinet you showed in the yard. Like who pays for all those things, and like how do you keep track of them? And then when is National Night Out? Did you say August 16th?
National Night Out is August 5th, and our own
August.
initiative is on August 16th.
Oh, okay. And then also, can you talk about fireproofing your street as well? So the money, the map,
Yeah.
and the street.
Yeah, so software that we use for mapping is super simple. It's paper and pen. And there's a person you can reach out to in the city of Oakland, and they will give you the files for your whatever street you want, called Sanborn files. If you're interested, I can give you the contact info. And there are these
I'm in Berkeley, so that would be different.
Oh, then yeah, I don't know the Berkeley contact, but I'm sure it exists, and I could definitely do a little digging. But they give you a file that you can print out. We happen to have a neighbor who had a huge printer and was able to print it out on it's actually cabinet laminated.
11 by 17. Oh, wow. That's
But that
awesome.
makes it quite robust and got the cost down. We didn't need to pay for that very much. And then we mark it up with stickers that have a color system. And then we have a registry that is just a spreadsheet that we've then printed out, and the committee has them. I personally use a software called Notion to organize everything. I'm a big believer in it, and the neighbors kind of use it. You're able to share pages as web pages. So even if you don't have an account, it's easily shareable. A lot of the people on our committee are over 75. And one of the biggest, I say struggles, though it's very wholesome and sweet, is the tech disparity.
Mhm.
And so we
Yeah.
we try and use as little software as possible. And keep.
Well, that's probably smart too, because in an emergency, you might not have access if there's no electricity or whatever.
We are talking about getting a Starlink for the neighborhood to make sure that we do have connection, which leads me to your second question: how are we paying for things? We have a treasury, and we're also fortunate in that there was another committee in the neighborhood that was addressing something else years ago, and there was some money in the treasury still from that. And then a bunch of us put in a little money. And so we started with about $2,500, which is a good amount of money to do things. And then we also started at the time, 20 years ago or whatever, when before CORE became CERT, they were giving out more supplies for neighborhoods. So before I started this, there were some old timer CORE members who had gotten some supplies. But I think there are a lot of grants for these little things. And one, I think neighbors, if you make it clear to them, neighbors, communities, workplaces, things like that, if you make it clear that donating or adding a little bit of money to a treasury will make everybody's life better, safer, all these things, more prepared, you can raise a decent amount of money and you don't need that much. But if that's the barrier, there are also grants and things like that, especially if we all come together with a shared plan, hey, we want to apply for $1 million grant, and this is how it's going to get distributed into these neighborhoods, these blocks, then there's definitely access to money. Does that answer the question?
Great. Yeah, that's awesome. Thank you so much. Jack has his hand raised.
Yeah, the fireproofing was, you had a third question. You want me to address?
Oh,
that?
yeah, right.
Yeah. So in the LA fires this winter, something that was completely unprecedented is that the embers had a fly radius of 2 miles. Where the worst firefighters had seen thus far was about a mile radius, and that was in the Oakland Hill fires. But 2 miles was unprecedented. So when we talk about fire preparedness now, it's not even necessarily that you're living somewhere where there's a clear fire hazard. You could also be in an ember path depending on winds and different conditions. So making sure that all of us in California have defensible space and cleaned rooftops and the gutters and not a ton of dry brush hanging around and no flammables, no combustibles, things like that. So it's one part educating and 2 part cleaning, doing that together.
And are you working with like the zero, what do they call it? I forgot. I just saw something, a video on the Ember, like the 5 foot um space between houses,
The
or are you
defense,
just clearing debris and flammables?
yeah, we're also working on the defensible space, but it's also a very soft light. Like, we don't want to be dictating anybody's garden choices or telling people that they need to get rid of this tree on their property because it's more flammable. So
Yeah, well, I don't know if Oakland has a hardening um ordinance, but Berkeley just passed one, so that's why I asked.
yeah.
Okay, thank you so much. That was excellent. Go ahead, Jack.
Yeah, that was a terrific presentation, and I'm really glad, Cheryl, you remembered to record it because I'm going to have to go back and listen a little bit more closely because there's so much information packed in. Like you were just saying little sentences like, well, if there's a earthquake on the Hayward Fault, it's going to displace, and you said some big number of people. What was that?
500,000 people is the estimate
Half a million people. Yeah.
in the Bay
I
Area.
our neighborhood, I live out in the Laurel or well, Allendale district in Oakland, and we are a pretty tight neighborhood. We have like block parties pretty much every month, but it's more just social. You know, we don't do what you're doing. And that's really great. I I remember one time I sort of asked people how many people have their houses bolted down and shear walls. You know, these are like the basic things you do to prepare for earthquakes. And it seemed like a lot of people hadn't done that. Although since then, I think in Oakland, when a house is sold, it has to be done. Is that true?
Yeah, it is now. So it now depends on when you got your house.
Yeah. So there's usually over the years, in recent years, there's been quite a bit of turnover in the neighborhood. Unfortunately, gentrification, but at least I think when people move in now, they have to get those houses bolted down because I know we did that, I don't know, in the 90s or something like that. And I've noticed every time there's an earthquake now, our house used to just wobble back and forth. Now it's just like we get a little jerk, but that's it. The house
Right.
doesn't shake anymore
No.
because it's really solid. So I think that whole earthquake preparedness is really important. And that number was a big, I had not heard that number, 500,000. That's amazing.
It's
So
also another number that's pretty amazing is that for every dollar you spend in mitigation, and mitigation for government is different than what it is for us, but the numbers are the same. So mitigation would be bracing and bolting your home. It would be getting a new roof to make sure that it's metal, getting an arborist to cut off, to get rid of a tree, things like that. Every dollar you spend in mitigation is $13 you save in recovery. So if we think about that collectively as a street, if we can pool resources together to take on mitigation efforts on our street, then collectively as a street, when an emergency happens, we will save $1 to $13.
Regarding the wildfire, I'm really interested in your opinion on this because I know I followed the Berkeley hearing pretty closely because I was very interested. Oakland obviously had this huge fire in 1991, and as I recall, if the wind hadn't changed, there was nothing that was going to stop that fire going all the way to the bay, in the same way that the Lahaina fire did in Maui or that the Cascades fire did just now in LA. And I think what I learned from the Berkeley testimony, at least, if this, it was that the fire department was saying that the real goal is to keep the vegetative fire from the trees and the brush from spreading into the structures, because once it gets into the structures, it's almost impossible to stop. I was just wondering what your thoughts are on that.
Yeah, that's about accurate. And the wind, there are certain conditions that there's really nothing you can do. And the firefighters are often making some pretty hardcore choices on the ground because they have to, which houses they're going to let burn in order to not start a new fire, because then, they had to make really difficult choices in LA to make sure that yeah, the worst one, when the Hollywood Hills fire started, for example, they were about to send over help to Altadena, and then they mid-journey diverted it to take care of the Hollywood Hills, letting another 1,000 houses burn in Altadena. But it wasn't because they didn't care about Altadena, it's because the amount of water that they had and the amount of impact that they would have had in Altadena was minimal, but the impact would have hopefully put out the Hollywood Hills fire, which would otherwise have engulfed the entire city. And so that's we're not prepared. We weren't prepared before this administration took office, and we're now definitely not prepared on a government level for fire or anything else. So I think learning fire safety basics in our own neighborhood, do you know how to use a fire extinguisher? Has anyone ever used one before?
We bought some when we moved in like 40 years ago. I don't know if they're any good anymore,
They're
probably
no
not.
good anymore. You gotta
Yeah.
switch them out every couple of years. They're not as intuitive as they look. It's kind of a scary moment, and we need to be actively training and doing these things. And you can actually save properties fairly easily by getting rid of embers, by going on the roof. On our street, for example, residents who were here during the 91 fires reported that there were embers, because we're about a mile down the hill, that were reaching the houses, but it was embers. And if left untended, then of course they can cause real damage. But if the neighbors are coming together with water hoses and things like that, then and constantly wetting the roof down, you're able to avoid a lot of damage. I don't know if that answered your question.
Yeah, no, thank you.
Yeah, Corinna.
So I was wondering, you said to harden your roof, and you said metal roof is best. So can you offer suggestions as to what type or what company would provide metal roofing?
Ooh, I don't have any recs for companies right now, but I could. Is everyone here on a email list of sorts?
I think
Yeah.
Cheryl has it.
I don't know, I believe everybody here. But I
Well, if
have an
everyone
email
wants
list
to,
to everybody here.
if you want to all drop your emails into
The chat?
the chat, I can send specific guides and resources for home hardening.
Well, you can also send them to me, and when I send out, if you guys are on, you must be on the CEMTF email list, or else I don't think you would be here right now. If that's true, raise your hand. Or put a thumbs up or something. But if you send it to me, I'll be sending this out, the recording, when I send out the Friday's climate preparedness event recording. So, and I can include all of your anything you want to send to me.
Great. Yeah, I have
Including the fact.
much better resources than what I can speak to about the specific
Oh, and
roof
Cheryl,
hardening.
thank you very much for your presentation too. And you're doing, I mean, wonderful things with your community, with your group, and all the resources you're giving them. It's amazing. I hope we could do it too.
Yeah.
And then I just have one question that's not I don't really expect an answer necessarily, but I just want to put it out there. Is
Yeah.
that, with the flooding, like in Texas and maybe even like down in Monterey a few years ago, I mean, how can they prepare for that? How can they prepare for that?
Yeah, it's a great question. Mostly what I've been hearing is that flood plans weren't taken very seriously. That the flood in Texas actually happened in what's known as Flash Flood Alley Drive or Flash Flood
Yeah.
Alley. And they've known for the longest time that it's at risk, but there's a psychological disconnect happening where people do not want to take disasters seriously. And throughout the last many years, they have tried different initiatives to get an alert system running. They've tried to get people to approve tax measures and things like that. And it's not, there's no one to blame because there are too many elements at play here for why it went so catastrophically. But we need to, Gavin Newsom announced fairly shortly after the fires in LA that everybody who lost a home was going to be able to rebuild in the same place. And all emergency managers across the state are groaning because if we rebuild in the same places, we're just going to have more fires. We need to understand that certain places are flood like zones and that maybe you shouldn't build properties on them. So that's like long-term recovery. What they could have done in the moment is mostly better alert systems and a better system, but there are too many people to blame or no one to blame or.
Yeah. Okay, thank
I
you.
think it's about taking a really good look at how do we prepare for this future now that we know all these risks.
David has his hand up. Go ahead, David, and then Viviana.
Yes, thank you. I'm driving, which is why I'm off video. Just wanted to be safe, which I am, hands-free. I've seen online. Well, thank you for your presentation first, Shirah. And I've seen online images and heard something in terms of mitigation, like you were suggesting, something about blue roof, a blue roof or blue the color blue that's impervious to some kind or some aspect of fire. I've been kind of felt.
No, we
I
lost
guess
you.
you made, yeah. But maybe he can hear your answer, so.
I don't know about this blue roof, but I'm gonna look it up.
Yeah, I don't know either.
Yeah.
Uh,
Viviana, your
Well,
hand. Oh, we're back.
I'll look into it offline, but thank you.
Awesome. So I just have kind of just asking for some advice. So like in my community, like one of the reasons I joined the CEMTF is my background in like emergency response, and I want to be able to create like resiliency in my neighborhood. And I actually did invite the CERT team to come speak at the county's, Sacramento County's CEMTF. And that was pretty awesome. But what I found is that it's kind of hard to gain traction with regards to like the resilience part of climate emergency. There's a lot going on with like greenhouse gas reductions and electrification and things like that. But with the emergency portion of it, that's one of like my kind of interest in my background. And I just kind of was wondering, like, if I were to try to do this in my neighborhood, for example, like, what do you recommend, like how to start? Like, is it literally just knocking on people's doors and, you know, meeting at the local park, or, you know, like what's kind of or how you started, or any tips pretty much?
Yeah. Is there any current group, WhatsApp group, Google group, anything going on in your neighborhood, a block leader?
I live in like the equivalent of like East Oakland over here in Sacramento. And so like people are not particularly, you know, it's really hard to get involvement. So it's gonna be a struggle, but that's one of my goals. And so yeah, there's I guess there's the next door app where people kind of sometimes report things, but it's not very niche to my neighborhood. But yeah, probably starting something like that would help.
Yeah. So if it doesn't, sometimes it exists where at least, you know, a few neighbors are on a shared chat in case something happens, or for dogs, or I don't know, security cameras. So you could ask around, but it sounds like that doesn't exist in your neighborhood. So you could start it. Do you know any neighbors in your neighborhood at all?
Yeah. Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, my neighbors are like I know a lot of the Latinos.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a big population of that. And I'm Latina, so so I know them. And yeah, it's so definitely something worth starting.
Awesome. So there's an initiative. Do you know Listos California?
Yes, yeah.
So they
Actually,
have, go
yeah.
ahead.
I was gonna say I used to when I used to work at the city of Berkeley years ago. I used to help them train.
Oh,
Yeah,
cool.
yeah.
Yeah, so they have a new initiative called the Block Party. If you go to Listos,
Okay.
California, I think it's org or whatever, / Block Party, you can order a kit right now for your neighborhood that will give you the supplies to connect with neighbors. And they just brought this initiative out, but it includes door hangers that say, hey, come do a disaster prep party with me. And it has games and things like that. I think you're in with the Latino community is that there actually is a clearly documented disadvantage for the Latino community, primarily around access to language and things like that. In the event of a major emergency, we do have systems in California set up for many languages, but in the immediate aftermath, they often don't have the time to activate multilingual systems. So they all go out in English for the first little bit. And in some emergencies, even just a few minutes can give you a real leg up and things like that. So talking from a place of like real community around, hey, we need to stick together. These are scary times, period, for the Latino community. And a lot of something else that's being talked about in emergency management in California right now is that people are going to be hesitant to seek help because of ICE raids and things like that. That people will be hesitant to show up for CERT or neighborhood preparedness or things like that. So I actually think it's a great opportunity to work together as a community and say, we need to prepare together. And the disasters is just one of the things that we can do to come together and take care of each other right now.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you. I'm definitely going to search for that block party resource. So thank you for that.
Yeah.
I
And then
think
would
I
also,
just put it in the chat.
Oh, sweet. Yeah, I see it.
yeah, and I would also say if you know any neighbors, the best way to start is to form a little group with the ones you already know and then start the door knocking.
Awesome. Hey, thank you.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, David, I see your hands up.
Sorry, I didn't lower it. I'll lower it.
Great, all good.
Yeah, I was thinking too, Viviana, I definitely would love to meet with you, but off the, at another time. But also, I was thinking maybe you could hang out at the parks or check out the parks or in your community or a local store or something and just hang out and try to meet people that way too, like to see if anybody's interested.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely would love to have a conversation with you as well. And yeah, that I do a lot of I actually I live right across the street from the park, and it's definitely a pro and a con in this neighborhood. But like in the moments before, like really early in the morning and really like right before it gets dark, there's a lot of walkers, lots of people, just a lot of like also seniors that I'd love to target as well, just because they're often people that will probably be the ones needing a lot more of our help. So yeah, that's a great idea. I'm gonna get this Listos kit, and I'm just gonna start trying to like coordinate people, maybe stick a sign up sheet on a tree somewhere, because it's a very active park. So yeah.
We do a lot of flyers. Flyers work really well.
Yeah. That's awesome. Did you said you might want to go into some more details about a couple things earlier, Shirah? Did you want to do that now? I mean, we have a half an hour, or we can end early. I was just curious.
I'm happy either way, whatever you guys.
I'm interested in hearing more.
I'm interested.
Yeah, so we could talk. Do you guys have specific preparedness questions? Do you want me to go through very basic stuff?
However you go ahead. Go ahead,
Yeah,
Viviana.
I was gonna say, like, so I guess some, I don't know if you have any insights on this, but for where the CMTF that I'm with, we're continuing to write our climate emergency response plan. The like 1.0 kind of came out, and it's, it was kind of completed before I got onto the CMTF, but we're working next to complete our air pollution or air quality in our built environment sections. And I'm just wondering if off the top of your head, if you have any like policies that have worked or that you guys have worked with, like maybe specifically built environment, that you would like to highlight or recommend for us, like for us to consider.
I'm not sure I understood the question. Policies?
Or just, oh, sorry, not really policy, but just recommendations. Just things that maybe you've noticed, maybe wording it this way. So like in your neighborhood, as you guys prepare for like emergency, like disasters, it seems like fire is probably the biggest concern over there. Flooding kind of is the bigger one over here. But like, is there anything with regards to the home, updates that you've seen, or is something that is, both accessible and effective? You mentioned metal roofs for fire resistance. That could be a good one, but also that creates a lot of heat. I don't know if there's anything else that you might know of that is a good thing for us to use as an adaptation method.
For mitigation on the street, you mean?
Yeah, for pretty much preparing our homes for potential disasters.
Yeah, for sure. And I'll follow up with more detailed guides on that as well. But if you think about it, so you have your own house, and you want to start with yourself and preparing your own home. And that looks like bracing and bolting the house, retrofitting it for earthquakes, right? Potentially changing the roof, but not necessarily. If your roof's in good shape and there's no cracks in it and it's just not a metal roof, that's totally fine. Chimneys are a big issue. Our biggest concern is actually earthquakes. Chimneys are the first thing that fall in earthquakes. And when you have those like tall brick, kind of pretty chimneys that go up, can fall and cause quite a lot of damage, and they'll fall on the neighboring house, things like that. So you can stabilize chimneys in different ways. You can get rid of your chimney. That's a big ask. So stabilizing is a good first step. You can also clear defensible space, but you can also plant fire resistant plants. There are some plants that go up in flames immediately, and there are some plants that are native to California that retain a lot of water. So when fire approaches them, they actually protect the house. So if you wanted to get really nerdy into it, you could do quite a lot. You can also, like I said, talk to an arborist and work with them on fire mitigation. These are like kind of bigger things. On a smaller level, if you think about it in your own house, once you've anchored all your appliances and made sure that heavy bookshelves are anchored to the wall, and made sure that you don't have any heavy objects on high shelves or breakables above a bed or anything like that, then your next step is to take care of making sure that you know when to turn off your gas, knowing when to turn off your water, because if you have a gas leak and then your house sets on fire, that's going to be an issue. But the reason why collective preparedness is so important is, David, do you mind muting yourself?
I can maybe mute.
Yeah, sorry, I thought I was muted.
Oh, no worries. I just have a hard time. Thank you. Yeah, so if you do everything right and you fix your roof and you fix all the things in your house, but the neighbors on either side of you haven't done that, your house is still likely to be impacted. So the best thing that you can do for mitigation is educate your neighbors on what they need to do, if that makes sense, and figuring out how you all brace and bolt together. And it's not necessarily getting metal roofs as much as it is making sure that you're all cleared for a fire brush, and you all know when to turn your gas off. And you all know that if you're living on a hill, you're likelier to have a landslide, especially if it's raining. and therefore you should leave your building as quickly as possible. Everything is quite local depending on the disaster, and the advice might not be the same. If you live in a high rise that was built in 2024, that's going to be one of the most secure places in the city for an earthquake. They're built to so many codes. They have double pane windows. Everything's new. The building isn't going to shift and suddenly rupture a whole bunch of gas lines. But if you live in a neighborhood with a bunch of houses that were built in the 60s and an earthquake has them moving even just a fraction of an inch, you're going to see a lot of damage. Does that make sense?
Totally. Yeah.
I don't know if I answered your question.
You did. I think it's since, and I remember living in the Bay Area for a while and like experiencing my first earthquake and just freaking out also, and like then moving into bracing. But you're right, where everyone has kind of their regional issues that they're mostly concerned with. So ours is definitely flooding. So some of this was awesome, and I think we still should be bracing appliances and things like that, because just to keep them in place, we don't know what flooding actually will entail. But I should probably also check in with people from Texas if I can find anyone. If you have any contacts, that would be greatly appreciated as well. But you did answer my question. Thank you.
Yeah, for flooding, it's definitely a different set of things to prepare for. I think Sacramento, so the other one is extreme heat that you want to be looking out for already, but definitely long term. So that looks more like neighborhood shade. If you don't have any wildfire risk, then you don't want to get rid of trees. You want to plant more trees so that you have more shaded areas in your walks and things like that. But you also want to maybe collaborate with, I don't know what the AC situation is like, but some kind of outdoor shared spaces for neighbors that they can cool down in with shade, and also making sure that you know who's elderly, because they will definitely need checking up on.
Definitely. Yeah. And definitely the trees is a big concern over here. We've made a lot of efforts to just create a bigger canopy and help protect, especially the areas of Sacramento County that don't have as much coverage. We do have a big effort is to create centers for people to head to when there's extreme heat. Those are great. Thank you.
Yeah, for sure.
Karina had her hand up. Go ahead, Karina.
Okay,
She was first.
I've been kind of preparing for earthquake primarily. So I always have food and water available. And so I have the water because I have these jugs of water that I have in one place, and I put little water preservatives in there. That's good for 5 years, so they say. But then I'm not sure about the food. So I was wondering, like, do you buy canned food or do you buy like these meals ready to eat?
Yeah, my advice is my advice is actually to first check your specific geological hazards on a map. Do you live in Oakland?
No, I live in Berkeley, like just a few blocks from the fault line.
Oh wow, yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, we should talk. I'd love to get you prepared. Berkeley
Okay.
also has a hazard mapper that you can use, and you can find out like exactly what zone you're in. And the reason why I say this is that if you were on a liquefaction zone, for example, or on a severe landslide, and you're also not braced and bolted, things like that, you can take an educated guess that your property will probably not be safe in the immediate aftermath of an earthquake. In which case, why have 2 weeks worth of food in your house if you're going to have to evacuate, right? So it's different. You really need to think about your own specific situation to come up with an emergency plan that actually makes sense. Though, having 2 weeks worth of food, in my opinion, is never a bad thing, because we could also have a pandemic, or there could also be
Mhm.
kind of major civil unrest that just makes going out not what you want to be doing. Or there's so many reasons to have 2 weeks worth of supplies. But if you're specifically asking what supplies for earthquakes, I would start with figuring out what your plan is and whether you're going to be staying at your place for the 2 weeks as things kind of normalize, or whether you're likely to be outside of the house. Once you figure that out, get food that you genuinely like, that is going to bring you comfort, and that isn't something that you're like, oh, this will probably be good in an emergency. Get things that you genuinely really enjoy eating, that have an expiration life of 6 to 12 months. Set a reminder on your phone to rotate. And whenever you're rotating supplies, host a disaster dinner for your friends using all of the emergency supplies that you had, and educate them on disaster preparedness while you eat disaster food. And you can even ask them to come with another canned food that you like, so that your system gets replenished
Yeah.
organically. That's something we've been wanting to do collectively as a neighborhood. I have those stuffed grape leaves, things like that from the Trader Joe's that are pretty good, or like a canned lentil soup or a vegetarian chili, things like that. Things, I don't know what
Mm.
kind of foods you like, but make sure it's things that really bring you joy.
Okay, thank you. And I just want to make one more comment about in the past, I was told that if you want to see where the Haywood Fault line runs, you just draw a line from one hospital to the next, like starting
Oh,
Fremont, and then I forgot Highland, and then I know Berkeley. I mean Alta Bates. So
mhm.
that's bad.
Yeah.
That is bad.
Someone told me it was by the lamppost across the street from Cafe Strada was the absolute epicenter.
Oh, yeah, then it goes, yeah, under the stadium or by the stadium and upwards.
Mhm. Yeah, I'm not far from you. I'm not just under 2 miles. So
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
we'll be in it together.
We'll all be in it together. I remember the what was it, that 89 quake? Yeah. Or whatever that was. Yeah, I remember that. I remember standing there and holding, I was at the farmer's market on Derby Street, it was at that time, holding my head because I thought I was dizzy. And then the ground started rolling and the ground came up to my hand. I'm short or whatever, but it still came up to my hand and I was like, whoa, what's going on here? I thought it was me, but it was an earthquake.
Yeah.
So,
I was at
but
Alta
yeah, that
Bates.
was too.
I was at Alta
Yeah.
Bates. I figure as a patient, so I figure, well, I'm in the safest place.
My husband was, no, not that weekend. The weekend of the fire, he was at the out debates. Um, but I had a question. When you
Yeah.
do collective, I was wondering, do you do collective like quotes for like for any of the things like what did you call it? Uh bracing and bolting. Could you do like get all the people on your block that want to do that and then maybe approach someone that does that and get a collective?
I think so. I definitely do. And um, yeah, if you know what you're doing, I've been told it costs under $1,500 to brace and bolt your home. And
Oh,
most contractors are able to do it. So if you had a contractor in your neighborhood, or you wanted to kind of put a call out once you had a group and say, hey, who's an architect, who's a contractor, who's an engineer, we have work and let's work out a good price. I think that would definitely be an option. It might be that people already know what to do, and tapping into these kinds of resources is also really crucial. We have an architect and a contractor on our street, luckily, and they're currently assessing the safety of different properties so that we can also have safe houses. And
mm-hmm. Oh
this,
yeah.
this will be the first time that we coordinate, that we're trying to get an arborist to give us a reduced rate. I can definitely fill you in and let you know how it goes. But it's in the past, I come from a film production background, so I did a lot of vendor negotiations and things like that. And I've always had very good experiences with group pricing personally.
Hmm.
It's also tapping
Wow.
what's already there because, yeah, actually, if I could leave everyone with the most critical pieces of advice right now, the first one would be put shoes under your bed. The biggest injury post earthquakes is walking on broken glass. So it's just being prepared and having shoes or sturdy slippers under your bed. You're already ahead of the game. The second one is having alerts. If you're not signed up for AC alerts or for whatever local alerts are in your area, that's really, really crucial. There's also Shake Map, which gives you a few seconds advance over any other earthquake alerts, and a few seconds really matter. There's making sure setting some kind of emergency contact and have your location sharing with somebody, with your best friend, with your partner, with your children. Make sure that location sharing is on so that you can find each other afterwards. We might not have a service for a little bit or in certain areas, but it's unlikely that you won't have a service for a very long time. So that kind of stuff can really change things. And then the other one is around documents and insurance and legal stuff. So you definitely want to have, most people have really random stuff in their go bags that you don't actually need. And I can include a list of things you really should have in your go bag when I send out the resources. But one of those are copies of your documents, of your passport, of your ID, of your renter's agreement or your lease agreement or your mortgage, whatever it is. Your medical insurance, things like that. And then you also want to, even whether you have insurance or not for fire, earthquakes, and things like that, you want to have an inventory of all the belongings in your house. This is really crucial, whether it's for insurance or FEMA or any kind of aid that's going to come in the aftermath of an emergency. If there's no documentation, it basically means you didn't have it, and that's something that people are experiencing right now in LA. And so if you don't have the time, which a lot of people don't, it's a really big venture, bigger than organizing your neighborhood, is to really do a full inventory of every belonging. But you can do video walkthroughs of your car, your apartment, of your closet, and do a walkthrough as you talk out loud. Open the cupboards and say, here you can see my cups, my things, my this and that. Like, have some kind of record of what you had and what you owned. If you can get earthquake, fire insurance and things like that at a reasonable price, I do think it's worth it. But then make sure that you know what you need, because insurance companies will go out of their way to mess with you, as we know. And to respond to the thing with the bracing and bolting and things like that in your neighborhood, if you have a lawyer in your neighborhood, in the event of an emergency, if you send in a claim, an insurance claim with an official kind of lawyer letter, then they will pay you out within a week. But if you don't, they will often push it and push it and push it. So what we're trying to do in our neighborhood is really who has what skills, because everybody has a skill, right? So who's a lawyer, who's a contractor, who's good with gardening, who's good with organizing. We also have retired nurses. So they're the ones that we've assigned medical roles in case of an emergency. Active medical personnel will be called in, but the retired nurses are a really, really valuable asset. Anybody who understands the ins and outs of paperwork is a valuable asset, things like that. That's why I say it's hyperlocal resilience models, and it's understanding that just having a plan really doesn't mean very much. Working alone and making sure that you know how to turn off your gas and not catch your house on fire doesn't mean very much if your next door neighbor doesn't know how to do that. And if financial equality is a huge issue, And a lot of people can't afford to do this level of preparation, but you can do something. And if you can't afford to put away $500, you can maybe afford to put away $1 a week or even $1 a month. If you have $1 a month, it's still better than having $0 when an emergency hits, right? And
Right.
so just like slowly thinking about what are the little bits that you can do to become holistically resilient, not just I have a plan in a go bag, but I don't know my neighbors and I don't have any money in my go bag. And I brought in the emotional piece because you can be fully prepared, have a go bag, know your neighbors, have cash in your hand. But if you can't emotionally regulate in a very extreme moment, you can sit there in a panic attack and also get gas poisoning, right? So it's
Mm-hmm.
really this like intersection of these resilient systems.
Excellent. Thank you. Lynette, you had your hand raised?
Yeah, I wanted to ask, well, what I've been doing is I try to tell everybody at least like $5 when they go shopping to buy extra goods, like canned goods and dry goods. And then the grocery outlet is really good because they have like rice and beans already made in a bag that probably lasts a long time, and beans. I don't like canned meat, but I don't even care for tuna fish, but I'd have to eat it if it was like an emergency. And salmon. And at the grocery outlet, they have dried salmon, which is really cool, from Alaska. And then like keep an extra case of water. And since 1989, no, I don't have all of those bottles, but wherever I live, I've always saved water. Because if you can't drink the water, you could use it to wash with and probably boil stuff in, and it would be all right. So I have every gallon juice bottle that I ever had, I have with water, which, I try to make it look artistically nice on my deck. But people, I mean, it did work. One time we didn't have water and I could take a bath. That was like so cool, but people aren't thinking on that level. But ever since 1989 earthquake, I was kind of shook up.
Yeah.
So I do that. And with all this other stuff happening, I live in fire country. So you never know.
Yeah. Water
Have
is the
to
most
evacuate. And you don't have time to go hemina hamina. You have to get out. Some people, it's like 5-10 minutes. Like they look and it's like behind the hill. And 5 minutes later or 2 minutes later, boom, it's right at their back door.
Yeah, fires double in size every 60 seconds.
So we have to be very careful and vigilant about taking care of ourselves and alerting other people. But other people think that I'm like being an alarmist, but no, my bag's ready. Last year they sent us one of those horrible alarms on the text, and it was basically bend over and kiss your behind goodbye. And it wasn't even in my area, the earthquake. It was on Cobb Mountain, which is a little bit of a distance from here, but that scared me. So I've had my to-go bag at the door ever since.
I'm
And I
glad you're
have a backpack that I
That's
could
great.
like quickly throw clothes in if I had to go. And I have a tent in my car, sleeping bags, pillows. I mean, it's a shame. Medical kits.
you're ready.
Thank you. That's awesome. Rafani has something in the chat. It definitely feels harder to have a community for this, especially when you are renting. At the same time, if someone doesn't start, who will? Well, I'm a renter,
I'm a
and
renter.
I live in a fourplex, so I can definitely talk to my neighbors. I know we do have a text thread that when stuff happens, although we had a tsunami you know? And my neighbor called me or texted me, and I was like, I don't know. It's like the water is kind of pretty far away. They said it's only going to come up within 3 blocks from here. So I'm really not taking, and I wasn't even dressed, ready, or anything. So I jumped in to get dressed and ready, but I don't have I still don't have a to-go bag, which is really bad. I'm going to try to get that done this week. Um, because I really understand the urgency of it. But that was the one thing I could grab easily was all my birth certificates and things like that. So, but I
Honestly,
need
more
to,
important.
we could put them in the cloud, but we might not have access to them for a while. So you should have a hard copy in your to-go bag too. So I'm going to do all those things. So this has been really excellent, excellent, excellent. Thank you
Yay.
so much. And it's wonderful to meet you. And I definitely want to stay in touch because this is something that I feel I'm really kind of worried about, not only for the climate, because climate means a lot of things. We're also in the climate of fascism, and this is another way for us all to be prepared, for that,
Mm,
and for immigration, um disappearances, to be ready for that. So now is an excellent time to get ready for all these things, because if we're ready for one, we'll be ready for all.
exactly right.
So yeah, like I keep saying, we're in a heap of trouble and the heap keeps getting larger and larger. So we have to get ready. That's why I was like, climate and preparedness, we have to start with that this year. Because,
Yeah.
at least get people thinking about it and starting to get ready.
Yeah.
Because I feel it's super, super important. And a lot of, we have fellows, and we've been working on an Alameda County climate scorecard, which we've done for the last 3 years. But a lot of the students that we are UC Berkeley fellows, they didn't have that much of an education on climate. So that's happening. And we know a lot of people don't. So we have to educate and understand these things and get to know our neighbors. Now is the time to be united and be in solidarity and not be in silos. So I really appreciate everything of what you said, your presentation, your advice, your wisdom. It's been really a blessing. Shira, I really appreciate it. I appreciate everybody that's been here this evening. And time is almost time, but we don't forget about climate and preparedness on Friday, 9 a.m. Hopefully I can drop this in the chat in a second. I'll drop the link to the registration form.
Great.
It's on
Corinna,
Eventbrite.
Corinna sent,
Go ahead.
I see Corinna wrote that she wanted to hear about the Starlink.
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, if you need to go, maybe I could correspond with you.
Yeah, here, let me write my email in the chat as well, and you're all welcome.
Isn't Starlink that terrible person's software?
Unfortunately, yes, but
Yeah.
it's the only such software that exists, and we think that we're going to do that. It costs $500 for the hardware, and then you can activate it. There's a subscription model, so you pay a monthly fee, but you can leave it unactivated until an emergency. So we are just going to purchase the hardware as a group, and then we'll activate it in an emergency if we need to, and that will be an
What
additional.
does it do?
It provides you internet anywhere, anytime, no matter what.
Oh, I see. Oh yeah, I guess so. Understandable. I get that. I didn't understand what it was. It's like you hear these names all the time. I didn't know how that worked. I knew it was software, but I didn't understand.
Yeah,
The
it's like
Can
a
you,
router that can work anywhere. Yeah.
can you communicate with your neighbors on a cell phone using Starlink account?
Yeah.
Oh, great. So anybody could just kind of enter in the account, or you list them in on the account, and they could just use it to call when cell phone is down, right?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
I wonder how much, I mean, I wonder what the surveillance is. Well, we know the surveillance is bad, but I wonder, can you opt out of the surveillance part of it?
I have to look at, we're not planning on using it for much other than if the earthquake were to hit and we wouldn't have cell service, and we set up like a pop-up incident command.
Yeah, uh-huh.
Easy up and a table, and we have signage, and we have some emergency supplies and first aid, and it's where we would gather, and that's part of our emergency plan, that neighbors would meet us there. And so if people were panicking and they were like, we need to send a message to say I'm okay to my children in LA or whatever scenario, or to figure out where my kid is in school, things like that, then they would just log in to our Starlink. So it'd be like looking for Wi-Fi, and then they would have a password, they would send a message and continue, so that everybody can do that and be taken care of.
Okay. I didn't understand that. That's so, I really appreciate, now I have a clarification. Lynette, you have your hand up.
Yeah, I just wanted to say something real quick, and I know you guys are all gonna laugh, but there's such thing as a ham radio.
Yeah.
Yes.
And
Yes.
I think that might be the best way if there's no links. 'Cause where I live, it could be,
Or walkie-talkies too, walkie-talkies.
yeah, walkie-talkies.
Yeah, we have
All
some
right. Well,
But
and
ham
radio is good.
radios go a greater distance.
But
And that's all I wanted to say.
you need a license.
oh,
I know.
That's, you need to
But
pass
it's
the
not
Alright.
test.
that hard to get. There's ham radio clubs, and you could just join one. And then
yeah,
tell you how to get your license.
that's a good idea. Well, thank you, everyone, and thank you,
Thank you.
Shiraya.
Yeah.
That was an amazing preparedness talk. We really appreciate it.
Great, I'm so glad. And yeah, please reach out with any questions, and I'll follow up with a bunch of resources.
Excellent. Well, maybe we'll see everyone on Friday morning. Have a blessed day and a good evening, everyone. Thank you for
Thank you
being
very
here.
much, Sarah. It's
Good night.
great.
My pleasure.
Yeah,
Thank you. Great presentation.
yeah.
Thank you. Take care.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.